This episode of Nuff Said is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. To get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code SOUTHGATE to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
There are heroes and there are devils. But in the kitchen of hell, the hero is the devil. Welcome to The Devil You Know. Hello, dear listeners. I am your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser. And with me, as always, is my skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Hey, Mozz. So glad to have you. Welcome to Season 3, Episode 6, The Devil You Know? Ha! I tell you, I have long believed that the people in the MCU actually do listen to the Southgate Media Network, and I know that this will be proven to me when we do see Avengers Endgame, when Tony and Steve Rogers finally meet again, and he says, "Oh, I've missed you so much, my skinny rich friend."
You know that's going to happen. But man, what a great episode. Every time I think, that was a great episode, they wrench it up 30 notches. Wow, what a great episode this was.
This is The Devil You Know, Season 3, Episode 6. Driven to the edge, Dex loses his way until he's offered a lifeline by Fisk. Matt comes to Karen for help, which she agrees to give on one condition. Steven Surgic is our director this episode. Stanley, Bill Everett, getting our Marvel Writers credits. Drew Goddard, of course, is created by Dylan Gallagher. Wrote this episode, gets his written by credit there. Tanya King is our story editor. And the unsung, hardest-working woman in show business, Sarah Streicher, once again, our uncredited staff writer. Oh, so we open up with, a little bit of cut back and forth here. We have Karen waking up in her apartment. Then we cut back to her and Foggy, as Foggy's giving her legal advice now that she is admitted to killing Wesley. And
shooting him 7 times.
Yeah, he fell on her gun 7 times, He had it coming. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think the jury can see, if you were emotional and you're fearing for your life, you could just keep pushing the trigger and just in a moment of shock,
Oh, without a doubt. No, I'm not. I think she... You know what? Here's what I'm going to say. People make bad decisions in this show. And this
especially around her.
Well, I mean, around her. Well, I guess around her. I mean, here's what I'm going to say. Basically, this entire thing resolves if it ends slightly different. If Matt makes a choice at the end that he doesn't make. But we'll get to that when we get to the end of this episode. Because it really is just a ridiculous whole thing. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's get to the start here. Matt has broken into Karen's apartment because, why knock?
Right.
And
he doesn't exist.
Yeah, he gives her this line about how Justin Evers, I believe his name was, or Jasper Evans, or something.
Jasper Evans.
Jasper Evans is the guy who stabbed Fisk because basically he took the deal because Fisk was going to get him out of jail, after he gets put in solitary. Which, that's another slight plot hole in this whole story that I gotta say, no one even really noticed.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like he has this one prison under such control that even when he was himself supposedly under house arrest or whatever you call it, he was able to have access to their cameras, to their doors locking and unlocking.
Well, what I can say is, obviously he has this prison. It's not that the prison being under his control is that shocking to me. I guess what's surprising to me is that no one thinks, gee, maybe the warden's on the take.
Yeah.
When it gets to the end, it's like, oh no, the warden, they looked the whole place over and, Jasper Evans is gone. It's like, well, yeah, but doesn't that kind of implicate the warden in this whole story? Like, shouldn't that be a big red flag?
Yeah.
You know, I
like
mean,
there's one less guy in the prison.
Yeah, well, but like I said, that you don't get out of a prison like that in that situation unless there is, cooperation. And we know there's cooperation from the ward. And here's what I'll say. They do explain why this doesn't trigger a red flag for people later.
Okay.
But the fact of the matter, it should still be triggering a red flag for Nadim. Nadim is like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, I'll buy that. It's really...
No, Nadim bought in on the idea of being part of the team or towing the line for the narrative and maybe doing some good. He had come to terms with the fact that they made a bad decision, but it progressed him further. It might have been okay for him, but he's got to do more bad things to protect that. I think he's come to terms with that. And like when he comes to the boss and says, hey, look, we might have a problem. And she counsels him, hey, it's probably a bluff, but he knows that there's a problem,
Yeah, but then he even still, he gets pulled in hook, line, and sinker with our final statement there about, Daredevil did it, Which, obviously, and like I said, see, to me, that's just bad police work.
Yeah.
Because I don't care how negative you are on Daredevil, the whole Daredevil did it is kind of like, well, you don't know that. You know that a guy was dressed as Daredevil.
Yeah.
And maybe even moved like Daredevil.
Yeah, but also, like, Nadim is really not fit for this position. So it's like, every blunder seems sort of understandable or almost expected.
Yeah, well, and in that sense, maybe they were right not to promote him all these years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe he thought he was doing great, but maybe he was kind of just sort of coasting and... never really had the chops that other FBI agents we've seen over the years. We also get to see that Fisk has basically gotten everything he wanted, and not for nothing. Again, like big red flags. Like clearly something is going on here that not only is he under house arrest, but they're bringing the white glove service on his carpet. They're putting all his art back.
He's not under house arrest. He's under mansion arrest.
Oh, he's in the penthouse. And, it is...
Gaudy.
Yeah, gaudy, yes. Very good. Very good, Mozz. That's a good description of it. He is clearly,
flaunting.
Gone all out. Yeah, he's flaunting it. With his dozen white satin suits.
Yeah.
And by the way, can I just say I really like the choice of the satin as his material for the suits? Well, I guess maybe that's silk, but still, it gives him that superheroic sheen.
Ah, yeah.
Like spandex. And it's just an interesting aspect of this thing, because they are certainly playing with the imagery of superheroes and supervillains, even as Matt is largely rejecting his old superhero identity, which I think is an interesting choice as well. But we also basically see Matt just sort of, I don't want to, it's like, there's so much to get to here, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, but when Karen decides she's going to help Matt.
Well, speaking of which, I think one of my favorite scenes is before she decides that she is going to help him is when she goes and speaks to Sister Maggie.
Yeah.
Love that scene because Sister Maggie does a once-over and reads her so quickly and figures out exactly how she needs to speak to her. And as she's walking away, she just hits her with, like, her own words. It was just so expertly handled, that situation. I love that scene. I thought that was really cool.
And just the idea that if you don't come every time Matt calls, eventually he'll lock you out of his life. Which I thought is kind of like, that's not really a selling point if you ask me.
No, that just shows he's like emotionally a blackmailer.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, well, great. Write that guy off the list then.
Exactly. It's like, okay, if I don't get a cookie, I'm gonna stop breathing until you gave me a cookie.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, it's like people care about Matt, but he's so dang self-destructive. And, although one of the things I liked in this was they actually kind of called out other superheroes in this, where I think it's Sister Maggie says to him, why don't you just let one of the other people like you handle Fisk? Because one of them will, Honestly, you're not even at the top of the game. Honestly, as I've always said, like the biggest proof that the Punisher is bad at his job is that he hasn't killed Kingpin yet. You know?
Right.
It's like he has one job, never seems to be able to pull that one off.
It's funny how he references that when he's talking to Karen. He says, or maybe they'll put me in the prison right next to Fisk. And he has like a little chuckle.
Well,
and she's completely like, oh yeah, you want to kill yourself.
Well, I mean, or kill Fisk, or both die in each other's arms, as they say, in your classic / fiction fantasy of the whole story.
Right. Right.
One of the central stories and one of the central plot points in this episode is, of course, Dex, our Mr. Poindexter. Because basically, after the blow up with Julie last episode, he is sort of trying to get himself and his brain sort of organized. And I like this scene when he goes and confronts Fisk. When he goes in, because he is so not in control. And he's
so disheveled.
Yeah, he so wants to be in control. Sends the other agent out to go get coffee so he can go feed Fisk, and he puts the food down and he knocks it down, and he's like, you really think she means it? It's like, and it's such a, clearly I've got your goat. Clearly you can say I don't have your goat, but there's a goat in my hand, and it's yours, and I have it.
Right. Right.
And just as he is just so broken down. And I love that. And then you have basically the big reveal when the agent comes back. Basically, it's all over the papers that you're being investigated. And, this, of course, leads him to go, he gets basically cut loose. And it's just a fascinating idea because, of course, you have this mantra in him that he just needs his North Star. But then, what happens if his North Star winds up being Fisk?
Right.
And that's where we find ourselves here, is that, Fisk wants to be his North Star. And Fisk is so perfectly manipulating. And, it is so interesting how they play. I mean, I really like Dex's story in this episode.
And I love how Fisk manipulates him. It's so well done how he breaks him down layer by layer and keeps giving him little breadcrumbs that lead him back to him.
Oh, yeah. Well, because Fisk is good at this, I mean, that's what this all comes down to, is Fisk has always been just one step ahead. And that's sort of what we're getting at the end of this. Because, and again, Captain of Bad Life Decisions, Matt Murdock, that he waits to bring the guy in because he knows where the guy is. Could have done something with all this before, but makes choices to not do so. I mean... Yeah. I mean, I guess you can make the argument that, he needs the power of the press in this, and Karen is the reporter he can trust, So I guess there is an argument to be made that it wasn't the worst idea, but at the same time, I think that, I think all in all, basically had he done this a little earlier, then I guess the other outcome is that Fisk wouldn't have had time to set up.
If he would have just Batmaned it up, kidnapped Jasper, and left him at the doorstep of the newspaper and said, "Here, Karen, deal with this," she would have had to and know what he would have known what was happening until, he sent out like a telegram and then sent a letter through the mail. He wrote Fisk an email. He let everybody know what he was doing.
Yeah, he definitely did not play this out very well. And that, and like I said, this is like my biggest problem with the ending of this episode. Because, so spoilers, they get Jasper, they bring him in, and he's going to give his testimony to the editor. And again, why we're waiting till the absolute last minute to get everything on tape, I don't know, but here we are. And in that time, it gives Fisk's entire plan the opportunity to unfold. Because just as he's about to say it, because drama is dramatic, just before he says the golden words, the power cuts out. Now, and again, in that moment, the power cuts out, but the camera is still running. The camera's on battery power because you can actually see the red light still on. So everything that goes on, everyone can see. And they could have had him still make his statement. Basically, they could have solved, basically so many problems could have been solved if people just sort of, focused on what was the most practical way to handle these things. And again, I think most notably this goes to Matt Murdock. Matt Murdock, basically, as part of this whole storyline, Matt has agreed to turn himself in. And honestly, I'm not 100% certain why they're after Matt Murdock. I'm not quite sure.
Oh, because Fisk named him as the person who laundered money for him or did like shady legal stuff for him.
Okay, that's what it was with Red
Yeah.
Line, Which I mean, honestly, again, like buying that, it seems a little. It seems like pretty light stuff there. But
yeah, because you gotta imagine at some point they gotta be like, okay, we have to be aware that we're not just doing his bidding.
Yeah,
they're so readily accepting every mission he sends them on.
Exactly, and I think part of that, and like I said, that's stuff that I think gets revealed later. But as it plays right now, this is it definitely is meant to make you go, really? What the heck now?
Yeah.
And,
I guess what they could have done a better job of was present sort of a slow, inch-by-inch degradation of, acceptable behavior from him. Little by little he takes a little bit more, and they're like, oh, beholden to him, and say, okay, let's go do it,
Yeah.
And before you know it, they're just as complicit in all of this, so they have to do things to protect that just as well.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of, I think that may be what we're moving towards with all this, but we'll have to see. But, like I said, like, the biggest thing to me is that if Matt had stayed, it basically completely undoes Fisk's entire plan.
Right, because obviously that's not Daredevil, or he's not Daredevil and he's absolved anyways. Either
it's Daredevil and Matt isn't this person, or
right.
It's just no. Because first off, Matt can say no. I'm very much Daredevil. There's a lot of people who can vouch. Yeah, he was Daredevil the whole time. He can show. Yeah, see, I have radar senses. I'm blind, but I can do all this ninja stuff. It's like I'm clearly Daredevil. And all of this kind of stuff, and it is just a ridiculous thing at that point. Because like, well, okay, so this is Matt Murdock. Matt Murdock basically is saying, no, I'm actually Daredevil. That guy isn't Daredevil. And again, when they have the guy talk, that is what shows you it's not Daredevil. And in fact, because as I said, that camera is still running. Now he's on tape. Now you have his voice. Voice recognition technology is a thing that exists in this universe.
Right.
You're going to tell me that they can't say, oh, wait, I know whose voice that is. That's clearly Dex. Because we work with him every freaking day.
Yeah.
It's like the obvious, and that's the thing. It's like, had Matt just...
And there's not that many cleft chins around,
Well, yeah. But what you can say is that, like, it's like, had Matt stayed around in his own old school Daredevil uniform and said, yeah, I was fighting this guy who's dressed as Daredevil, but that's not me. That's one of Fisk's guys.
Right.
Could he probably even tell you, yeah, that's Poindexter. I don't know if he's met Poindexter yet, but, he could say, yeah, I'd know him again if I ever heard him because, But clearly the guy who was fighting everyone that everyone saw was in this big red suit. And you can see I'm not in that suit.
And the other thing that seemed a little ridiculous to me is like Daredevil has been able to dodge bullets. You know what I mean? By sort of expecting it to be coming. And now he can't dodge, stuff being thrown at him.
Well, but again, this is to show you that this is Bullseye. And the whole thing about Bullseye is not only does he know where to shoot, he knows where you're going to be if you move away from the shot. So it's just this idea that he's just that good at hitting his target.
I guess they could have presented that a little bit better, but the only thing that seemed interesting and that I bought was the ricocheting shots.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that definitely works for it too. I mean, I think that there's always some limitations as to what you can do in the live action. It's like it helps that you know who he is as a character.
Yeah.
Because that definitely informs your ability to say, "Oh, I see what they're doing there." But in that moment, yeah, I can see how that can be a little distracting. But what was I going to say? Yeah. What I really liked about this is an interesting, and this is like a little bit of deep nerd for you. When you have Bullseye in the Daredevil costume, and you have Daredevil in the black costume, it is, because of course Bullseye's costume is that black costume kind of thing. It's just a very basic black spandex. So it's like, oh yeah, it's Daredevil versus Bullseye, but it's like color swapped, you know?
That's interesting.
Yeah. But I did like that aspect of it, and honestly, Dex is just, I really love Dex as just this real, basically being taken off his leash, you know? And that's what it is. And that is what Fisk promises him, and with the story that he tells him about how his mother saved the hammer all those years, which I don't know if it's true or not, but it is a great bit there. But of course, it leaves out the fact that when he killed his father was abusing his mother.
Right, and that's the only reason she would have saved it. I figured like that would sort of be implied by that revelation that she kept it.
Well, but I felt that, not necessarily. Because, and let me put it to you this way: it's not that you can use your power for good. You can be a punisher of evil. He's saying your evil is an end unto itself.
Well, that's also true. Yeah, no, that's true.
And that's the thing, is that he doesn't want, he wants to leave that out there because he doesn't want him to think, well, I can be, because that's what he's been doing, is being a killer for goodness, you know. He's been basically being a legitimate punisher, you know.
Right.
He does what the Punisher does. It's just that he's got the legal cover to do it.
Right.
You know?
And it's sort of like a mirror of Matt's own story of being abandoned and his need for somebody to be there for him, and Fisk is trying to be that person for him.
Yeah, and Fisk becomes that person for him, and you get a really neat take on it. But again, 10 seconds later, and that bullet's through. He doesn't miss,
Right.
He knows right where to put the gun, and he is about to end it all when the new guy Felix comes in, the new Wesley, ready to solve all his problems, as it were, And this is your classic Empire Strikes Back moment, where basically at the end of this we're really left to see that the heroes are triumphant, or sorry, the villains are triumphant, and how will the heroes survive. But which I think makes for a good show. That's why this is episode 6. We
know the formula, but we want more,
Well, yeah. Well, that's. I mean, we're almost halfway through, and this is a great moment in which to turn to pivot. And of course, next episode, it's Jim. You know why it's Jim? Because after Matt, you have Jim. Sorry, I came up with that joke today. I was trying to think what's the best line. Is it Spanish or something? Is it English? Is it, say Jim. Say it's Jim.
That was kind of like knock knock.
Yes. Who's there?
Up Doc.
Up Doc who?
Oh.
You don't know.
Wait, did I screw that up?
Maybe, I don't know.
I think I did, but it's an old joke from The Office, and I totally screwed it up.
Oh, well.
Oh, no, because it wasn't a knock-knock joke.
Oh. Anyway, on that note,
right, it's a...
Mozz, final thoughts on tonight's episode, The Devil You Know.
No, I really enjoyed how much things are coming to a head, and everything that you've been waiting for is sort of panning out in these last couple of episodes, especially Dex's character finally losing his mind and then finding it again. I thought that was really, really cool.
Well, I'd say finding it again is a little bit of a stretch, but yes, he's...
Well, no, but I think for him, as far as what his heart really wants, his truth, his ideal experience is being afforded to him by Kingpin. He's doing something that therapists try to do. They break you down and then they build you back up and allow you to have a hand in doing that. Yeah. And that's exactly what he did for him. I think in a way, I mean, he did, ask leading questions, so to speak, but I think for Dex's purposes, I think he is never going to feel more fully expressed than he is about to.
That is true. And I guess what one can clearly say, it's not that so much he lost his mind and then found it, it's that he never had a mind to start. He was...
Well, no. But the mind they were forcing upon him, the mind society forced him to wear, that had to be stripped away,
Yeah, I suppose so. I don't know. I think
that's how I saw it.
Yeah, I mean, here's what I'll say. I think had he met Julie again in a more organic situation, I think ththings would have been much happier for him.
I don't know. He's a creepy dude.
I think those tendencies would have been. But being a creepy dude doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go into the worst place with it. I mean, he could just be. Yeah, I mean.
On a long enough timeline, you don't think his tendencies would have been more open to the suggestion of bad ideas, and that at some point along the way he wouldn't have indulged in one of them, and that wouldn't have cascaded into him indulging in I think the kinetic, or rather, the potential energy that existed in him is too high to discount.
But what you can say is it's the difference between Bullseye and Frank Castle. Frank Castle is in many ways the exact same kind of character. Military service, and he's building that order, and he's got a lot of mental issues about all the things he's endured. But because Frank Castle had basically when Frank Castle lost his North Star. He dedicated himself to destroying the things that hurt his North Star. Because, and honestly, I guess maybe what you can say is that because Dexter's North Star was first off his psychiatrist who gets taken by cancer, which is a villain you can't fight, which is probably like the hardest aspect of it, that's just someone he can't fight. You can't defeat cancer. Right. You can't shoot cancer with a gun. And then with Julie, he actually, as crazy as it might sound, actually had a perfectly good relationship with Julie, just being her stalker. Because it's not like he was a creepy stalker sending her stuff. Basically, what would have probably happened is, like if he was indulging, it would have been like, oh, this person who was giving her a hard time suddenly met with an unfortunate circumstance,
Or some gentleman that she seems to show a disordinate amount of interest in suddenly finds himself in a bad way as well. You know what I mean? That's the kind of guy he was.
Yeah, that could have been the case as well. There's lots of options there. But basically what I'm going to say is I think if not for Fisk, I think that Dexter could have been a more productive member of society. That's all I'm saying. Because he was.
I think he was like a tampered with fire hydrant that was waiting to fully explode.
Well, yeah, but just because it's waiting to explode doesn't mean it has to.
Right. But he wasn't happy. He wasn't happy. He was suffocated. Whether or not it was good for society or not, but as far as his own being, I think he was liberated by Fisk.
Well, I think I guess that comes to this question of how happy should you really be, and if at a certain point, and here's what I'll say: it's like I'm not going to say he was unhappy prior to that. I think actually you see real joy in his face when he's eating pizza, stalking Julie.
That's interesting.
I think you see real joy when he's just jogging and Julie's there and he's watching Julie be a good person.
Right, but at the same time, when you view it with the lens that if she wouldn't have been allowed to have a regular life, like he couldn't be with her because he was too messed up, but he couldn't. I doubt he would have been able to stand watching her be with anybody else, and maybe he'd done it to her before,
Well, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, there's a completely other thing that that he liked Julie as an idealized person. Meaning that it was much more important to him that Julie be this person that he never spoke to. That it's as they say, never meet your heroes.
Right.
And I think Julie was his hero, and he what Fisk did was Fisk forced him to meet her. And
interesting. So in a way, his North Star couldn't be corrupted by him if he was not present in her life, exactly. But she could still continue to be his North Star. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and no matter what she would have done, if she had found another person, so long as he wasn't bad. That's the thing. It's like you never, if that person ever raised a hand to her or wasn't just the best person ever for her, then he might have done it. But if he was truly making her happy. He might have tolerated it because it was making her happy, and she was still.
You might be right. I can see that. I could buy that.
I mean, honestly, the idea that she, becomes a wife and a mom and all these kinds of things, and you could see him in this very happy state, just stalking this entire family for decades. That's the family he doesn't have, but it's like this is the ideal, And that could end poorly too, obviously. But it's like there's a what-if universe where you could play that out. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
but of course,
I could see that.
But of course, but Fisk knows that's not going to help him. But and that's the thing. It's like it's a good thing that Matt went along with Fisk's plan because because at any point anyone could just screw this up. And like I've always said, really, every supervillain just really cuts a great deal off of superheroes not killing them. Because really, it's like had Matt Murdock really said, you know what, the Kingpin's a threat, I'm just gonna kill him. I'm just gonna sneak in there with my mad ninja skills with my gun. I'm just gonna put a bullet right between his eyes. Because Matt Murdock's dead anyway, so what does it matter?
Right.
But that is not the choice he made.
Right.
He decided to be a superhero instead, and so that is what we have instead. Final thoughts on tonight's episode, Mozz?
No, I dug it. I'm excited to see what comes next. How many we got left?
Well, this is 6. There's 13 episodes because there's a full 13.
Oh, wow, nice.
Yeah, so we got 7 episodes left.
Oh, nice. All right, so that's awesome because it seems like everything's quickening so much that it almost felt like this might have been like a 10-episode kind of thing where they're wrapping things up already. But it's nice to know that there's a lot of game to play.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot to go, and it just gets crazier. I will tell you.
Oh, nice. Right
this
on.
plays very well. What's interesting is they haven't canceled Punisher yet.
Okay. Well, that's. Is there anything left on the table? Like, is Jessica Jones still
Jessica Jones, but they're actually going to hold off Jessica Jones till the summer. So we actually may finish Daredevil and Punisher before Jessica Jones starts. So, even with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. coming back after the snap. So,
nice.
Okay, so Mozz, how can people find you if they'd like to talk to you about the devil that they know?
That'd be fun. They can reach me via email at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And, of course, you can always write to me that old-fashioned email way with our Mozz Impossible instead at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. And, of course, follow me on the Twitters as I live tweet Gotham and the Orville and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and all these great shows, which I would have been able to do tonight, except both are reruns. At Charlie Esser, that's CHARLIESSER. Yes, look for the two E's in the middle. If you can hear Tristan or not, look for the two E's in the middle. For quality. Dear listeners, in this evil world where we seek angels, know only that the devil you know is by your side. Good night.